yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we're back with a Patreon request. Thank you to Christopher for this one. This is Sohyang's cover of Bridge Over Troubled Water. I've received many comments about and recommendations of Sohyang in my previous videos, so she has been on my list for months now. So I guess this request has fast-tracked my first time hearing her. The original song, I absolutely love it. I feel like everyone knows it. There was a very iconic live performance of it from the concert in Central Park, where Art Garfunkel just stands there and delivers this unbelievable performance. So on to today's performer, Sohyang. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. I don't know much about her, to be honest. She's South Korean, and some of the requests I've received of her performances have included this one, You Raise Me Up, Oh Holy Night. Many of the comments say she has a powerful voice, so these types of songs, yeah, they make sense. This performance is from 2015. I think let's get straight into it. Tuning. Okay, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here musically. Her voice, the arrangement itself, how they work together. Yeah, very nice first minute and a half or so. I suspect things are probably going to get a bit more crazy or powerful in the second half. For now though, let's do our first pause here. If you don't want to hear my analysis, go to the timestamp. First things first, the key that she's performing in. The original is here, her key is here, a minor third down. But she's actually up the octave, so we know that she will probably be going significantly higher than the original song. As for the arrangement, well, it's a very obviously different arrangement, and I really like that. The opening piano, for example, it's much more reduced than in the original song. And in this version, there's this very obvious three-note motif, very, very prominent, with its rhythm really standing out. It's interesting to hear because the notes used are these. We have a C on the bottom, and then the three-note patterns are this. The notes used are these. This is a pentatonic scale. If you move every note up one tone or two half steps, then we get the C pentatonic scale. And then again. This scale, the pentatonic scale, it's one that's often associated with Eastern Asia. A short while into the performance, the piano becomes a bit more regular rhythmically. Dum, da, da, da. Yeah, I think the arrangement accompanies her voice perfectly. Before we get into that though, let's talk about her voice. She has this lovely airy entry. It's a very delicate sound. And on the second phrase, she's using straight tone singing, so there's no vibrato, no voice wobbles. Impeccable tuning. Using straight tone singing, it's naturally harder to tune well than if you use vibrato, because vibrato can mask when tuning is slightly off. So it's a bit of a riskier play, but when it's done well like it is here, we can just see the effect it produces overall. As I said before, I think the arrangement accompanies her voice so well. There are so many moving parts in this arrangement. It's very string heavy, and it's covering massive ranges altogether between all the instruments. Many parts though don't really move, they're quite static. For example, we can hear in the cello this C, the root note, just sustaining, or a bit after this in the violins. Not moving. This causes very interesting harmonies and subtle dissonances that really enrich the overall sound. Even Sohyang herself, she plays this role of staticness. If we go to just before we paused, which is even more interesting because just before that moment we get a very interesting chord. Something like this. This D dominant 7 chord, if we revoice it, we then expect it to move to a G chord, which is 5 notes below. So it would sound like this. Traditionally, that is the role of a dominant 7th chord. That's what it means. That's all fine. So why is this dominant 7th chord in this context a bit strange sounding? Well, it's because the next chord is an A minor chord. So you'll see that at the bottom of this D chord, we have an A. And then the next chord, and the A at the bottom, that's an example of another one of these sustained notes that's not moving. So these sustained notes, they're really important. They're changing the roles of chords as we might expect them. They're causing dissonances. As I said before, I think they really enrich the sound. Back onto her singing. So this moment I'm about to play, I was expecting a louder moment, bigger, more powerful as she was moving up in pitch, but we get the opposite as she moves up. And it's even more surprising because she uses a blended voice for that first entry. So there are elements of her chest voice or full voice in there. Blended voice is usually extremely powerful as we move higher. Here though, delicate, a lot of control over the sound. As we move on, the harmony becomes a bit more soulful, as does her singing on the words "lay me down." Quite gospel-like, and then this more soul gospel type harmony becomes much more obvious on the next phrase, like a bridge over troubled water. The chords are something like this. The melody is like, so the first 2 chords, and after that, another example of her using that straight tone, no wobbles in the voice. Because she's so in tune, it almost sounds auto-tuned. I know there are people out there who say we can't trust any modern live performances because of technology available. Pitch correction, all modern music uses it, etc, etc. Whilst that is probably true for a lot of modern music, Sohyang appears to be one of the rare breed of singers who would play havoc with these theories. Here, it's just so in tune. This is my first ever time hearing her. I've heard her for a grand total of about 1.5 minutes. But what I've said, it's based on what I've seen so far. I'm keen to hear more, so let's carry on.
When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when the evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part.
Wow, that's been nearly 2 minutes. Okay, this is a powerful voice. Yeah, that's a very, very powerful voice. It's very gospel-y. Is this typical of her style? And because of that, a lot of the harmony compared to the original song has changed in various ways, and her melodic choices are in line with these harmonic changes. Let's go over some things that we've just heard in that recent section. From after we carried on, yeah, everything's now getting a bit bigger. We've got more ornamentation from her, more vocal runs, trills, you know, those kind of things.
When living falls so
Very much a display of vocal prowess. Technically difficult, she has so much control, spot on with the tuning. With a song like this, and because I know the original song so well, I love Simon and Garfunkel. And it's probably just my preference, but I actually prefer the less showy vocals, kind of like we heard in the first part. But I do appreciate we now have a backing choir that has come in, so it allows Sohyang to be much more free with what she does. She's now no longer the only voice. We can think of the voice as being an instrument, just like cello or violin. So now we have more of the same instruments taking care of the more basic roles for said instrument. And the choir as well, again, very soul-y, very gospel.
I will comfort you.
So then if we move forward a bit, let me play this section in the original. We get a chromatic descent of 3 notes, listen out for it. In this version, we do get this chromatic bass line, but only for the first 2 notes and not the third.
When the
The third has gone down an extra note. And then we get a big pause after that. Everything comes off. So for me, it was a surprise because I'm expecting this 3-note chromatic descent. We get 2 and then everything comes off. So that's what I'm left with. How is this surprise enhanced? Well, listen to her voice. The power is crazy, crazy power. This is her chest voice as well, her full voice. Maybe a slight blend in there, but I get the impression that she's extremely skilled with her blended voice, which is a difficult thing to do, and I think it is how she's able to sing so powerfully. What this means is that she essentially has no real limitations within her range, because she can switch smoothly and seamlessly between her voice types. Chest voice, full voice, head voice, and anything in between. She can just blend, and she can choose how much chest voice she's using or how much of her head voice she's using. And when she doesn't want to choose a blend, then she can exaggerate the distinction between her head voice and her full voice, like she does here. See the much quieter, less powerful head voice, and then straight back into the powerful, chesty voice. We know she doesn't need to do this, because a bit after on she sings that same top note, which by the way is the top G, and here's the top of your typical expected sopranos range. So it's very high. And there is a blended voice. So these decisions, is she going to use a blended voice? Is she going to use a more delicate or weaker sounding head voice? All stylistic choices. And she has a nice head voice too. Quite a direct sound. I wonder what her full range is. It must be pretty massive. I'd love to know who did this arrangement. Here, for example, we get quite a dark, grungy bit, all things considered. We have the descending stepwise melodic theme from the chorus. This bit. And then if it continued. Against a mostly static but chromatic lower part in the brass. Which sets us up for the next section, much more of a kind of cleaner sound. Texturally reduced again, harmonically cleaner kind of. Violins, very prominent, angelic. Which is where we pause, so let's carry on until the end. Whether this is your style or not, that ending there, it affects your body. It gave me goosebumps. I don't have too much more to say, really. Obviously an incredible performance. A couple things and then we'll just kind of give a general thoughts. I liked the a cappella section. Thought it was really nice. With a beat that sounds like a clap, might be synthetic. Of course with a 4/3 suspension in there. And just a massive ending. Very, very changed compared to the opening of the song. And very changed compared to the original song too. We get an electric guitar now becoming more prominent. Moving into these soul, gospel-like improvisation type things. Well, they feel like improvisations, maybe they're not. It's very much that style. I don't know how long she'd be able to sing for because, well, it's a bit ridiculous, so much power. She really, really has mastered the blended voice, and that's what allows her to get up there with so much power. This last section where she's going on a mad one, I couldn't listen to that and relax. It was nuts. I think, at least for me, and I know we're all different, we all have different musical preferences, it's definitely a performance to show off her vocal skills, to kind of wow you and you just think, whoa, rather than something that I'd be listening to loads of times. But what a voice. That's one of the most powerful voices I think I've heard. Impeccable tuning as well. And great arrangement. Yeah, overall I thought that was really quite something. Quite a spectacle. Well, I don't have more to say, so let's leave that there. Thank you again for this request, and thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me react to Sohyang again, and if so, which songs. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community and vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the Patreon and YouTube membership linked below, and I will see you next time.